Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Silhouette, and I started my true crime channel a few months ago. For those of you who have subscribed, and those of you who continue watching, just a massive thank you to you all. Not able to do this without you guys. So I mentioned in my community post that I'm going to be looking at some cold case files, and that is going to be starting today. So probably going to be running for about 4 to 6 weeks, depending how good they do. I'm hoping that you guys are not overly familiar with these cases. If you are and you've got any other information that you want to add, you can add a comment down below. I always read the comments. I appreciate everyone who does leave a comment. Please, if you aren't subscribed, please subscribe, like and share this video, and let's get the algorithm started. Probably going to be quite a short video today, mainly because I have got a gig that I'm going to later on, and also just going to have a night out as it's my birthday tomorrow. So with all that said and done, I'm just going to get on with the video. So today we're going to be talking about the case and the murder of Penny Bell, and again, like I said, I'm hoping that you guys are probably not overly familiar with this. If you are, then please just comment down below. The reason that I wanted to do cases like Penny Bell, and there's going to be some other infamous cold cases, I'm hoping that by talking about this, someone will come across the video and it might jog a memory. I know obviously some of these cases are over 30 years old, so the chances of that are slim, but if there's any information that's out there that anyone can come forward with, then it will just give Penny's family and the families of the other victims that we're going to be talking about, just give them peace of mind, really. So with all that said, we're going to get into the case of Penny Bell. So as always, we're going to start from the beginning. So Ruth Penelope Bell, she was born on the 28th of February 1948 in Bermondsey in Somerset. At some point during her adult life, Penny, she decided that she preferred to be known by her middle name, or the shortened version of her middle name. I couldn't really find out any information as to why, but for the rest of her life she was referred to as Penny. So in the 1970s, Penny married her first husband, and this produced their son Matthew. He was born in 1978, and unfortunately that marriage ended, but Penny then meets her second husband, Alistair, and they both get married, and in 1982 they welcome a daughter called Lauren. Now in 1987 the family moved to Baker's Wood in Denham in Buckinghamshire, and that was in October of 1987. It's a really quite well known affluent area, just on the outskirts of London. It's believed that only 5 miles down the road, so she was considered a really close neighbour to Cilla Black, and countless other quite well-known big names lived in the same area at the time. So at the time of her murder, Penny was a partner in Coverstaff Limited. This was a really successful employment agency based in Kilburn, and this meant the family were really well off. They were really, like I said, affluent. Children didn't want for anything. And in November of 1990, Penny and Alistair, they put by £100,000 to have their house renovated from top to bottom. And this work was just carrying on way up until June 1991. On the 3rd of June 1991, so it's about 3 days before we're going to talk about the events that happen, Penny ended up withdrawing £8,500 from her and Alistair's joint account. And this really raised suspicion within the household, as Penny had never ever, or Alistair, they had never withdrawn such a large amount of cash. And she kept hold of this cash on her personal possession, and to this day it was believed that the cash was with her when she was murdered, but to this day the money has never ever been accounted for. At a police press conference held on the 8th of June, Alistair said that Penny seemed to have something on her mind on the night of the 5th, and that she fell asleep in front of the TV at 9 p.m. before going to bed really early. And he said that this was just really out of character for Penny. You know, she sort of lived her life through a routine. Everything that she was doing, everything that she done during the week, it was all put into a diary. And obviously that crops up a couple more times throughout the story. So on the morning of the 6th of June 1991, Alistair leaves work at 8 a.m, which was his usual time, and said that Penny, she seemed really bright and chirpy, like nothing out of the ordinary. But he noticed that she didn't wave him off as he was driving to take Matthew to school. But he just put it down to her being really distracted by the work that was going on in the house. At this point, the kitchen was being renovated, and she was busy talking to the carpenters and electricians, anyone who was around the house. So at 9:40 a.m, Penny leaves the house, which was her usual time to leave for work, and she gets into her blue Jaguar XJS, which I'm going to pop a photo up here of the exact car that Penny was driving. And she tells the builders that she was running late for an appointment, but no record of this appointment was ever found. There was nothing written in her diary. As I said, Penny wrote everything down in a diary, but there was no record of this alleged appointment that she said that she was going to. This was not found in any papers, so it's never been said who she was potentially meeting that day. But there was a suspicion that she could have potentially been meeting someone at the train station, as there was a train due at 9:50 a.m, and an electrician who was at the house was the last person to speak to Penny, and he described her behaviour as just really normal and casual, like nothing out of the ordinary. Now, one witness who come forward to say that they saw a man waiting by a brown or bronze car and get into a blue Jaguar at around 10 to 10 in the morning, and this was on the former Common Road opposite the Bridgetine Convent and Guest House, and this guest house is adjacent to Black Park in Wexham. And another witness who was walking her dog said that she was sure the driver of the Jaguar was Penny, and that she saw a man getting into the car, and she said that he was a white man around 5'10", aged around late 40s, early 50s. Now, another witness, they said that they saw a blue Jaguar XJS driving down Greenford Road at 10:20 a.m, and the car was going about 15 miles an hour, but the whole time the car had its hazard lights on, and these lights were just flashing away. And then another witness come forward about 6 months later and claimed that he saw Penny driving into a car park with a passenger, and he apparently made eye contact with Penny, and she made an appeal for help, or what he believed was an appeal for help, but he just kind of ignored this. There was also a lorry driver who happened to be driving behind Penny, and he ended up overtaking them, and he's seen in the mirror whoever this man was in Penny's car was trying to take hold of the steering wheel. He could make out that the man had a gold chain on his wrist, but he assumed that it was like a driving lesson or something, or Penny just wasn't paying attention. So he just sort of didn't think anything odd was going on at that particular time. So it's believed that Penny was murdered at around 10:30 that morning. She was actually spotted motionless in her car at the Gurnell Leisure Centre car park in Perivale, Greenford, and this was around 11 a.m. But those who saw her believed that she was asleep. What they did notice was, even though it was a really hot day that day, the windscreen wiper at the back was moving and all the windows were up. And it wasn't until 12:15, when it was noticed that there had been no movement, that the police were finally contacted. And Penny was sadly declared dead. So it's been established that she had been stabbed over 50 times in the chest and arms with a 3 to 4 inch blade. And this was described as a really frenzied attack. Forensic investigators said that the killer had attacked Penny from the driver's seat before he exited the vehicle, walked around to attack her from the front of the car. And at this time, the car park was said to have been really, really busy. There was 153 car spaces, which were all occupied. And this would have aided the killer, by all accounts, because of how loud, how busy this particular area was. There would be poor visibility. Strategically, the car had been parked in front of a hedgerow. And obviously, as you can tell from the picture that I put up of the car, it's quite a low car. So the visibility definitely would have aided him. Like, there's no question about that. And Lauren, she described how Penny had always been really immaculate with her long manicured nails, but it was noticed that they had all been broken off during the attack. So it's believed that Penny really put up a strong fight against him, but sadly it was one that she just couldn't win. Now, police believed that the money that was withdrawn at the time was with Penny when she was murdered, but it wasn't found in the car, like I said at the beginning of the video. Her handbag and purse was still in the car, opened, and on the dashboard there were wallpaper samples that had been laid out over the dashboard. And these particular wallpaper samples, they had been sent out by Laura Ashley back in April of 1991, and Penny had just kept them private. She hadn't shown anyone until this particular day. So it's believed that she was possibly meeting someone that she knew, and she wanted to get a second opinion on whatever colour this particular wallpaper happened to be. I'm going to try and post a link to a Crime Watch video that was uploaded onto YouTube. And this is from 1991, so they talk about the Penny Bell murder in this video, and they actually show the wallpaper sample that was found in Penny's car. So I'm just going to post that into the video if you do want to watch that. So police believed whoever was responsible would have been heavily bloodstained following the attack, but no one actually witnessed this. And if you think about the time frame, 1991, CCTV isn't how it is today. Whereas obviously today you're looking at a 4K image. Back then it was quite grainy. grainy, sorry. A great example of that would be the CCTV stills of James Bulger. So obviously when that first happened, they believed that they were looking for two teenagers. They couldn't really make out clearly. All they could make out was obviously they were two boys. They couldn't really make out how old these boys were, any sort of distinguishing features. And that's just down to the quality of the CCTV, and obviously it's made leaps and bounds at this point. So and obviously, like I said, the poor visibility of a really busy car park like this would have aided whoever done this. So the only person who did come forward was a lady called Patricia Parry. She said that she saw a car driving really erratic out of the car park, and this car followed her along Ruislip Road. This went into Cuckoo Avenue, and eventually it overtook her. So investigations determined that Penny was a really happily married woman. She was a successful businesswoman, but they struggled to see why anyone wanted her dead. It's believed that Penny knew the killer, but robbery really wasn't the motive, as the handbag remained in the car, despite the cash being missing. There were no signs of any visible sexual assault, but the frenzied nature suggested a really personal motive. This is what was really evidently clear to the investigators. By May of 1992, over 4,000 people had been questioned. Penny's business partner, Michael Flynn, he offered a £20,000 reward for anyone who would give evidence, and this evidence would hopefully lead to a conviction, but as we know, this case has never been solved. So one of the first people who was suspected was actually Alistair, and that's not really surprising hearing this, because when someone is murdered, they say that, you know, obviously we all know this, that the high chance is that you actually know the person who has killed you. So the first port of call is they're going to look at the partner of the deceased person. And Alistair was really suspected upon because he was actually the sole beneficiary of Penny's estate, and he was actually in line of her life insurance payout, and this was valued at around £200,000. And it was put forward that his motive for the murder was because he found out that Penny was actually having an affair with another man. But nothing was found to back this up. There were no... It was just obviously a false allegation. So police then they look into Penny and Alistair's history, and they discovered that Alistair was bisexual, and he had actually been in a long-term relationship with a man when he met Penny back in the 1980s. So it was put forward that he was the one that was having an affair with another man, and that Penny had been murdered for the insurance payout to fund a new life. But eventually Alistair was completely dropped from any suspicion, and this is just literally down to lack of evidence. And if you think about the time frame of the general attitude towards Alistair, you know, they severely questioned him over his past, putting forward that he was having an affair with a man. You know, you're coming out of the 80s, and I don't like to keep going back to it, but obviously we know about the general attitude of gay people in the 1980s with the AIDS pandemic. The 1990s weren't that much better by all account, with obviously the gay bashing and things like that. So police weren't the most open-minded of people back in those days, and I think obviously with some of the stories I've told that are more recent, especially the Stephen Port one, you can't see some police attitudes haven't really changed that much. And that's not just down to obviously gay people. You only have to look at the most recent one with David Carrick. He's the officer that's been sent to prison for multiple rape allegations, or them proven, sorry, multiple rapes and abusing his partners. But obviously it wasn't acted on because of any biases that the police have towards these particular cases. But I digress and get on with the story. So the murder and the interviews had fractured the relationship between Alistair and Lauren, and this basically just never recovered their relationship between the father and daughter, and she ended up moving out of the house when she was 19, and so obviously that was over 20 years ago, and the two apparently have never actually rekindled this relationship between them. It's actually obviously really sad to think about, because obviously that's his only child, or I believe it's his only child. Now, the biggest factor in Alistair being cleared of any charges or any suspicion was he had a cast iron alibi. He was actually at work on Shaftesbury Avenue on the morning that Penny was murdered. So obviously, like I said earlier, he thought it was weird that Penny didn't wave him off as he was driving to work, or driving to take her son to school and then go to work. But he had cast iron alibi. He was on the rota. His manager stuck up for him. So Lauren has since said that she believes that Penny knew the man who did kill her, as the frenzied nature of the attack suggested a crime of passion. And she added that, I think it was someone who wanted her but couldn't have her. And the case was featured in the September 1991 edition of Crime Watch UK. And this opened up more lines of inquiry, and these lines of inquiry sadly just didn't lead anywhere. The biggest line of inquiry that they had was from a former neighbour. So at the particular time before they moved to Buckinghamshire, the family lived in Harrow. And this neighbour, John Richmond, he was arrested in April 1992, and he attempted to sell a story to the Sun newspaper for £80,000. And a reporter went to see John after he said he would reveal how Penny was actually murdered. And this reporter reportedly led John on and recorded all the conversations, said that, you know, if they believe it's a story well printed, that he would get his payout. Obviously it never materialized. Like, they knew they couldn't go with this, but they were just gonna run with the story and hopefully get a conviction from this man. So John said that he and Penny were actually having an affair. So obviously going back to what we spoke about earlier with the police investigation, they believed that Penny was cheating on Alistair. And he was actually due to meet her that morning of the June the 6th. And initial investigations of Penny's car uncovered some fingerprints, and these were actually found to be a match to John. He was arrested and put on police bail, but in December 1992, all the charges were dropped. CPS decided to not go forward as it lacked sufficient evidence. 2 years later, in December 1994, John was rearrested after he made claims that Penny had been killed by an assassin. and he had actually been paid £30,000 by this person just to basically keep stum about it. He was asked if he knew the killer's identity. He said he did, and this was because he was actually asked for any recommendations for someone to carry out a knife attack, but he claims that he didn't know that Penny was the intended target. So the case was reopened in 2003. Police were looking at forensic DNA analysis on the bloodstains found at the scene, but this basically just gave no further details to the case. In 2008, police interviewed Robert Napper when he was linked to the December 1992 murder of Rachel Nichol. So it's quite an infamous cold case. So this went unsolved for many years. Rachel was a single mum who was out just basically walking her little boy in the park, and the boy was only about 2. I watched an interview with him recently. Obviously he's now in his 30s. I think he was only about 2 years old at the time, but Robert basically just stabbed Rachel to death in front of this little boy and fled the scene. And it took 16 years for the police to finally link Robert to Rachel's murder. So they looked at the similarities of the 2 cases of Rachel and Penny, and that's why they were intrigued to speak to Robert. But again, they couldn't find any sufficient evidence, and again, Penny's case has gone cold. In January 2021, Lauren said that she was offering a £20,000 reward for any information to basically solve the case, and at that particular time the case was coming up to its 30th year. She set up an Instagram account, and this was basically to share any information. I tried to find if this account was still active. I couldn't come across anything, but if you guys think that you can, and obviously you can have a look, just let me know if you do find anything, because I would like to add that to the bio for anyone to reach Lauren if they come across this video. So all of this was featured on another Crime Watch episode on the 10th of March 2021, but as of today, so Friday the 22nd of March 2024, this is when this video is being filmed, this is when this video is going to be going out, the case still remains unsolved to this day. Unfortunately, that's all I've got, all the information I could find on this case. Despite it being a really well-known, infamous cold case, there really wasn't a lot of websites dedicated to it, not that many videos dedicated to it, so I just wanted to give Penny a voice. I'm hoping, praying that obviously someone who watches this may come forward and may jog their memory. I know obviously we're talking about 33 years ago, but there are people out there with really long memories. Sorry again that it's only a short video today, probably aiming for the half-hour mark. Like I said, obviously I've got a gig that I'm going to later, and obviously, like I said, the information just really isn't a wonderful lot about it, and obviously I'm celebrating my birthday early, but I'm really appreciative for all you guys who are here to support me. Really massive thank you. Please like, share and subscribe. Share this video. Let's get out there, let's get Penny a voice, and hopefully someone ends up coming forward. I know it's a slim chance of that happening, but You never know. So with all that said and done, please guys, stay safe, and I will see you next time for the next true crime story with Silhouette. So that will probably be aiming for next Friday. But take care, and I'll see you guys soon.